to our spring season here, season 8 on the Feel podcast. We are excited to kick off this new season with our friend Laura Tolosi as we discuss passion meets nutrition with Laura Tolosi. The ways to engage with this episode are as follows. Think about the purpose of the food you're eating and the reason behind it. Are you actually hungry or are you trying to fill a void? Are these nutritious calories you're eating or empty ones that make you feel tired rather than energized? Be mindful of the things you're putting into your body and how it makes you feel. We hope this gives you some things to think about as you engage with today's season 8 debut with our friend Laura Tolosi, Passion Meets Nutrition. Take care and thanks so much for being with us.
Hello, Field Podcast audience. Welcome back this week. I'm so happy to be here with you. My name's Melissa Crook, and I'm your host here. And I have, she's not a new friend if you've been with the Embracing Layers Network for the last year, if you followed our radio show at all with 360 Talk Radio Network for Women. And by the way, those episodes are all archived on our website now. So you can go to our website and find every single one of them. But if you followed that at all, you've met our friend Laura Tolosi. But now I get to bring her to the podcast side and we get to dive into the talking points together and have a great conversation through those. And I told Laura before we started recording that the way she lives and conducts her life, the lessons she's learned, and how she helps others is so naturally aligned with these talking points. The resources she offers are going to be so helpful. If you haven't had a chance to access them yet via the radio show, here they are again. They're going to be available on our resources page on our website at embracinglayers.com. You can go back and listen to the radio show episodes and get even more nuggets from her. But today we're going to meet her through these talking points and hear what she has to share, her wisdoms, her insights, lessons she's learned, all those things, and her heart for helping others. But we're going to start by introducing her by her character traits. She's passionate. She lives in her integrity. She's a nurturer. She's heart-centered and she's chill. Let it go, let it flow. And we're going to talk about that more and just the value of life and time and experience that lends to that even more. Like some of us are born with that naturally. And then others of us, like me, I'm still trying to learn it, but we learn it over time. We learn what we're capable of and what coping mechanisms and just life wisdom. So we're going to get into all that today. But Laura, my friend, welcome to the Field Podcast.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here in your podcast today.
I know. I'm so excited to have you. It's so funny. I've talked to you so many times over the last 6 months that I feel like that you've been here with me already, but I forget, Oh my gosh, our podcast listeners haven't got to meet you yet. So super excited about this today.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. All right, my friend. I know you have a lot to say about this, both in your own life and your work, but let's start with your own story. Talk to me about your journey with prioritizing self-care in your life and what that's looked like for you.
So, and I am going to bring it back to passionate because truly I have always been passionate about my health. And so that always has truly looking back, it really has always been a priority for the majority of my life, probably starting since college, right? It was always active. In college, though, is when I up-leveled the food piece. And then I continued to up-level that piece after college. You know, we go through all these stages. But I've just always loved food. I've always been passionate about cooking. I've always been passionate about eating. So it's really really been innate in me my whole life, even just kind of being around in this, and I've shared this before in your radio show, this Italian-American family that I'm from. The food was really such a part of our celebrations. Yeah. And so combining that initially as I grew up with having, negative self-body image, I really turned that piece around and embraced the activity and embraced the food piece in a way that it could support me. So it really did come from a place of being very passionate about that. And I'm really being passionate about supporting women and people to live the healthiest lives, because I truly believe that no matter where we are in our health, in our journey, we can be, I mean, for myself, I was bedbound for 4 months. So no matter where we are, we always can change that situation and change it into the healthiest we are. And I'm always even evolving in my health, right? I'm striving for more. I mean, as I'm getting wiser, I call it. I'm still like challenging myself, and I'm still passionate about maintaining my health and just keeping my vitality alive. And what else can I do for myself, which I then can share with my people, my audience, whoever that may be, if that's where they are. That's the approach that I want, because I do have a holistic approach to health. And so whoever resonates with that, I love to bring them on. So I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you brought up something really interesting too, because family dynamics, so many of our cultural and background narratives play a role. Food is such a big part. It's a gathering point. It's a place to come together. We have friends that are Italian families that we know that still get together every Sunday and make the sauce for the week.
Yes.
And it's traditions of generations of recipes that you don't share outside the family. And there's a lot of like connection within that. They'll gather together to make things, and it's a lot of gathering together, and it's food oriented. So when you ran into this issue where you were having some serious health issues going on with some of these foods that were involved in this story, talk to me about that, like that exploration you had to go on and the challenge with that, knowing how much a part of your family history this was and that connection.
So I'm going to say, so in college, I had the education because I was a biology, nutrition minor, all that kind of stuff. So I learned the healing power of food.
Yeah.
And so it was a process, so it doesn't happen overnight. So I want to share that piece.
Yeah.
But I gradually looked at food as a way to support me and to support my healing versus as shame and guilt and blame, because that's how it started for me anyway.
Yeah.
I share the story, it's tiny house, 6 people. And, I would go into the kitchen, which was like you're walking 2 steps. There's the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's the cupboard, and we had the Quick. I don't know if anyone remembers Quick. We had the Quick in there, and I would pop off the lid and I would eat the Quick just from that little bottle.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like, you know what I mean? Like that was that kind of like shame. Like, I don't want anyone to see me eating this because I know I'm being bad, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But it really was just a really gradual process. Even as I was having my own children, that was really more of like, I'm going to say when I had my own 2 children, that was when it was really like, boom, like I really have to be the person that embodies and represents feeling good about my choices and not feeling guilty and shameful. So because I wanted to be a role model for my 2 daughters. So that was really when it really kind of solidified. So it was a process. So we'll say from college to when I had my first child, we'll say like a 10-year process when it really turned it around. And it doesn't have to take that long at all, but I'm just kind of like giving you a time span of like, yes, it was healing me, but then there's all that emotional piece, that guilt, shame piece, and then embodying, I feel good and I'm making these choices to nurture myself, which is that other trait that I really connect with, is as the nurturer. So I nurture myself through food, but I also do that with other women and people, is I truly embody that nurturer. And I believe anyway, that makes me feel good. For my family, but for others as well. And people are always, like when I get phone calls from families or friends, like it's interesting when they're in like this, almost like this stress moment of their life when something is even or happening with them or their child, and they'll be like, what do I do? And I'll, I will be like, okay, let's take it down. Let's get our plan. Let's focus. And I am supporting them and nurturing them, that they can be clear and focused in what they need to do to support the health of themselves or their child or whomever they're needing support with.
Yeah. And I would argue too that you're able to nurture so well because you've learned the importance of nurturing yourself first, which is so
Yes.
powerful. And also too, I think the power of knowing I have daughters as well. So when you have those daughters, you're like, okay, what have I learned from my own story that I want to make sure I change the narrative on with them? I
Mhm.
change sometimes generational narratives. How am I going to approach this in a different way? How am I going to bring them up in a way that they can avoid some of the pitfalls I hit with body image and food and those kinds of things? And I think that, we need to do things for our health and wellness, but that could be a great motivator, like knowing that you want to
Yes.
be better for others, to be your best version of yourself. So
Yes.
I think so I love that you brought that up because I know that's been a powerful motivator for me as well.
Yes, and there'll be instances, and I've shared this before, where when my children were where my daughters were really really young, and I'd be in the conversation with other moms, and that had fat shaming, and no one was. They were
Yeah.
all these beautiful women in my eyes, and then you hear it, and I was able to reflect on that, and I was like, whoa, like we need to change this. This is generational for sure, for all women, from my perspective anyway, from what I
Yeah.
see. It's
Yeah.
very common and it's almost normalized, and I'm like, this should not be normalized at all, because
Yeah.
if you just pose the question to someone like, would you talk to your best friend like that, they would be like, no. And so it starts people to reflect on that as well. So I'm
Yeah.
always like, okay, well, you need to reflect on these words, but changing that generational thing that us women do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like a rite of passage. I don't know why, but when you reflect and you see it, you're like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? And so I wanted to stop that
Yeah.
for my children, but for other women as well, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Breaking those cycles. Absolutely. All right. So talk to me about confidently setting boundaries, because I think boundaries around your time when you had to make these food choices and food shifts, but still wanted to be engaged with your family. And so talk to me about those conversations, the way you are able to support yourself through that and not, and in a way that feels supportive to you.
Yeah. So it's really definitely more of a way of like just kind of tapping into your intuition and what your body needs in terms of when you're out at any social gathering or doing anything. Really listening to, am I really hungry now? And if I'm eating because I'm not
Mm.
hungry, why am I eating? So kind of taking that approach, which I find to be
Yeah.
very liberating, because I'm still going out socially, whenever. But
Sure.
it's so interesting because the choices I make are so different now. When I was going out back in the day, well, college or whatever, we'll go out for dinner, getting the dessert and all the appetizers and everything, and really eating till I'm stuffed. However, now I still go out and enjoy myself, but I don't want to eat that way, because I'm listening to my body and I feel very uncomfortable, and I don't want to be like that. I can go out and enjoy
Yeah.
myself, and I don't need the dessert all the time. If I want to share it, I share it. And if I don't want it, like 9 times out of 10, I'm not getting the dessert. Or maybe I'll get an appetizer and share it, but it's really tuning into my body. I'm always taking food
Yeah.
home because I'm listening to my hunger, and like I am really satisfied, and I'm like, great, now I have another meal for 2 or 3 days. So I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
and so I almost look at it like it's actually financially better, you know what I mean? Because I'm going out to dinner
Absolutely.
and I'm getting 3 meals, instead of
Yeah.
one. I don't need to clean that plate, which
Yeah.
is something that was also needed to be broken generationally, because
Yes.
I
We
remember
all
for
grew
me,
up
right?
with that. Hearing about the starving children all
Right?
around the world that were getting deprived
It
when we
was,
didn't clean our plates.
I mean, like that was,
Yeah.
I sat up at my dinner table next to my father, and I didn't want to eat that pea, and I'd be crying. Like it was, I
Same.
look back now, I'm laughing, and we laugh as a family, but I'm like, oh my gosh, the trauma, you know what I'm
I
saying?
know. I'd be
I
there
mean,
for an hour. like, because there was like no ice cream, no dessert, no playing outside, whatever it was, whatever, like you're sitting there and eating that, or it'll be there for you. I would hear it'll be there for you for breakfast in the morning,
right?
Yeah.
You know, I thank God I had a dog, you know, I was able to like slip some stuff. I mean, like seriously. And that was one thing for sure that I was like, I am not doing that to my children. And listen, that's what they did. It's whatever. It's all good. It is what it is. But I knew for my children because I knew how I felt. I was not doing that. I was not. And I was letting them, because I went with letting them eat when they're full or when they're just right. And if they don't want to eat anymore, I never force it. Okay. And listen, my husband laughs at me because I'll leave like 2 bites of food, literally. And he'll be like, you that? I go, because I'm full. And I'll save the 2 bites for later for the next day. And that'll be like, if I'm hungry, a little snack. Like he laughs at me. But I do that because there's no need. Like they've able to transition into that. My body doesn't need it. I don't want to be full. I want to be just right. And it's going to be there tomorrow or whenever I want it. And if I don't need it, I don't eat it. That's all, you know, so it was definitely a different way of looking at it for sure, but listening to my body and what feels good in my body and knowing if I'm too full or bloated or you know, the whole range, like what causes what, that type of tapping into. And that was really for me, the best way to make that transition. It wasn't through calorie counting because I did all that.
Yeah. And there's so much garbage in that because it's not, for me, I would say, you and I've talked about this before. Yeah. It's more about the kind of calories you're putting into your body than the number of calories. Because
it's all about quality.
Exactly. And your macros and all these kinds of things. But I love what you talk about in the asking yourself why, because I think that many women I know struggle and don't even think with the comfort eating piece. Like they'll eat for comfort rather than eating because you're actually hungry or you actually really, need it. And sometimes that comes from, they heard when they were grow up, they couldn't have, there was a lot of restrictions. And so they're like, well, you're not going to tell me not to eat that now. Or insecurities or fear or, food, gathering around food. There's just so many ways and relationships that we can have with food that aren't related to actually healthy hunger. And so that's stopping to feeding yourself, not depriving yourself, but not stuffing yourself to a point where you're just feeling like, or you feel guilty. My thing was I felt too full. And so I'd go do an extra workout or
you punish yourself.
Exactly. Or I'd do it secretly where nobody knew what I was doing. And that's, there's so many things that we but you got to unpack that and walk that out. And if that's something that's coming up for you, dig into that, ask questions, get some guidance, direction, journal about it, therapy. There's all kinds of ways to walk it out, but I'm glad you brought that up because there's definitely those connections and ties to that are so important for us to figure out so we can be healthy.
Right, exactly. And I just had a training last night with a group I'm running, and the question was like, so we have food sometimes when we're eating, right? We're eating out of comfort, and so what we're doing is, how can we elicit those feelings of comfort without food? How can we make the swap? So it's just a really cool progression, because if you can elicit those feelings but not have to eat, well, isn't that cool? Because that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for the safety and you're looking for the comfort and you're turning to the food. So how can we invoke those feelings in ourselves when we're feeling the need without, and making that switch without actually going to the food that's not nurturing and supporting us. So that's a cool thing that we do. And it's important because it's breaking the pattern that's so ingrained, and you need to break those patterns. And the pattern was used, it's not like it's not because you're a bad person. It was just a pattern because you were looking for comfort and security and it's safety. But now it's causing you, what you don't want to have it in your life. So now how can we break that pattern in a way that's still is causing comfort and safety in your body?
Yes. You're acknowledging it, you're naming it, and you're finding a healthy way to not avoid discomfort, but deal with it and move through it. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I love that. I love that so much. And there's so much power in that. And we'll talk about that more. I'm going to give you a chance before we wrap up today to talk a little bit more about that. But I know this is something I love what you do, because you tie this part in, that taking care of our emotional health as much as our physical health, our mental health, they're all tied together. So talk to me about when you realize that, and also how you incorporate that in your work now.
So it's really a very integral part of the work that I do. It has to be, only from what I've seen. Like, if we're not incorporating the emotional piece, we're only getting at one layer. So we do the physical layer, which most people get it, right? They get, whole foods, farm fresh foods. They get that piece. But then there's that emotional piece too. And so sometimes we can hold on and resist weight because there are emotional things that could be, weighing us down, right? Listen to your language. We have to always listen to our language.
Yeah.
But again, it's very streamlined. It's a very step-by-step process in my mind. Again, we're getting into your hunger. So that's how we start, is like, are you hungry? And so I bring people through this process. Are you hungry? And if you're eating, it's just a reflection. We start journaling, right? We start journaling. And I journal, we food journal, not to count calories, but to journal, how is the food making us feel? What's my hunger level? Am I overly full? Am I just right? And am I eating? If I'm not hungry when I'm eating, this is why am I starting? Why am I eating this way? Am I stressed? Am I tired? I mean, I know for myself when I do this, I know, because I'm looking at myself too. I'm like, I know when I'm tired, I'll turn to food. Like, that's something that I'll turn to, and I'll be like, oh my gosh. And it was kind of cool just to be like, wow, I'm tired. Yeah. That's when I turn to food, quote unquote, on that mindlessly. And so then how can I, support myself so that, that I don't turn to mindlessly eating food when I'm tired.
Yeah,
so like making sure I take my nap. Like, I can take a 10-minute nap, 15-minute nap, and then I'm good to go.
Yeah. Like, the power nap. The power nap is a powerful thing. Like, I can take a 20-minute, just close my eyes, and I'm like, okay, let's go. But even just recognizing in lieu of food or a sugar high or a coffee hit, to take that 20 minutes and close your eyes, put on a timer, and that's just give your, give yourself a chance to recoup, or go outside and get some fresh air. It's plenty cold in much of the country right now. Take one whiff, be awake.
Yeah, you're awake. You are yours. Absolutely. You are alert for sure. So again, just kind of being aware of your actions, and like, some people like to journal, some people don't, and whatever resonates. Like, I don't force anyone to do anything. It's just getting into that observation. And then some people start to journal eventually, whatever they're comfortable with. But then we do breathing, right? So we do breathing. It's called heart focused breathing. This is through HeartMath tools, but we do that as well. But we do this when we're not feeling stressed, when we're not overeating, because you need to practice these tools when you're not in that acute stressful situation. So that's like your baseline too. Like, let's do some heart focused breathing, and that's specifically that the program I'm running right now. It's an integral part. So anyone who joins, they know that this is a part of the program. It's not a surprise. People might go into a weight loss program and think it's all about food, but I want them to know, like, it's food, but then there's emotional piece, and that's why I bring in this tool, because it's so integral. Because this is just the population that I work with, if we're not dealing with the emotional piece. So it really, you can translate it to emotional eating, but you can translate it to anything. And so I had a client who spoke to me yesterday, and she has panic attacks. And she recalled when she was practicing her heart-focused breathing, she wasn't having her panic attacks. And then over Christmas, she stopped. She got out of her practice, and then another one kind of picked up. I said, well, there you go. I said, that was a great experiment. And we pointed out, like, look what happened. It wasn't I wasn't pointing out like, my gosh, you didn't practice. It was like, great. This was an amazing revelation. Like, look how this is
Sure.
supporting you when you do it and when you don't. Like, this is a beautiful tool that you can use,
Yeah.
So that is an important piece of the emotional piece. And then we just kind of learn the different ways we can use it in place of the comfort food, but to change your feelings from depleting feelings, right? When you're feeling that
Right.
guilty and shame, when you're feeling those depleting feelings, you can then incorporate these tools to have the replenishing feelings. So, and what some people don't
Mm.
know, and I like to share with them, is when you're changing your emotional awareness, when you're changing
Mhm.
it to replenishing feelings, you're also changing your physiology. So it's not just
Oh,
the mental piece, but you
yeah.
you are actually changing the messages that you're sending your body. Your heart's sending these messages to your brain, and the hormones and the electromagnetic fields. It's all changing your physiology too. So it's
Wow.
working on both levels, which is beautiful, right? Like, how beautiful is that, in my personal
Yeah.
opinion?
Absolutely. And again, it points back to that connectivity piece.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Approaching our health from this whole look. You're taking the demonization off of food, because so many times we get such a conflicting relationship with food because of all the things we've talked about, and it reframes it back into, this can be enjoyed. This
Yes,
is a resource to fuel us. Let's get ourselves healthy in a way that we can experience it in that way and love it
yes,
and enjoy it, because you love food. You
yes.
encourage that. You are very engaged with that, and you reframe it into this healthy practice with all these other, by incorporating the whole person.
Yes, yes, and just to kind of piggyback on that. So when we're working together with clients, like, the next layer is these good regenerative feelings, and they're right, they're heart powered, right, heart focused feelings, and
Yeah.
then you're in this. A good nourishing state, and then the choices you make are coming from a place of feeling good and loving yourself. That your choices are not
Yeah.
one of going for the fast food, but going for the farm food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're making that decision in a conscious way because you're in a different emotional state.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
coming naturally. It's coming from a place of love versus from a place of of shame or self hatred or whatever. So
Yeah,
that's that
absolutely.
transition, and that's how it stays consistent. Because once you're in
Yeah.
that place of making those choices to nourish your body, and because you love your body, then it's just a different way. It's just
Yeah.
a whole different way.
It is. And it's that mindfulness and being
Yes.
present, that
Hmm.
it brings all of that into where you're really thinking about these decisions you're making for yourself.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And you
Yeah.
don't need an app. You know what I
Right.
mean? You don't need an app to track anything. And I understand people learn and enjoy different things. That's fine. But if you're
Yeah.
tired of the apps, and because the people, they don't want to track. I don't want to track food. I don't want to
Yeah.
do all that anymore. I want to
Yeah.
I want to go wherever I want to go and tap into my own body's awareness and intuition, so I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
tracking anything or whatever.
Yeah. And trusting your body. Because I think that's, for women, especially, that's not
Yeah.
something that's not something that's taught to us. We hear the opposite, not to be
Yes.
trusted, not.
Correct.
And so it's learning that, changing that way of thinking too, and trusting what your body's telling you. Your body will give you
Yes.
clues. You just
Yes.
gotta, your body's not against you. It's for you. It's letting you know
Absolutely.
what it needs. And it also gets you thinking in that way about your body, versus, I think, so many of the narratives that we've heard that are contrary to that.
Yes. 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
because what do we
absolutely.
do? We push and suppress, and we push and suppress, and we
Yeah.
whatever ways people do it, food or alcohol, drugs, whatever, because we don't want to. We're scared to feel. We've turned to not feel. So
Yeah.
we have to change that paradigm too. So we're
Absolutely.
trying.
Yes, we are. And why I named the podcast this. I mean, feel is empowering if we know how to do it.
Yes.
And if we do it in a way
Yes.
that's healthy and it's possible. It
Yes.
is possible. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me. You do this. Your work is all about this, but supporting yourself and other women and living unapologetically. Talk to me about your journey with this, because we talked already, you haven't always felt that way about yourself. So you got to a point where you started seeing ways to live healthier. When did you decide it was time to start helping others with that as well?
I always wanted to help others, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It was something innate in me, to be honest. I've been in this path forever. So it's not like it
Yeah.
was never a career change for me.
Yeah.
So even just by cooking and wanting to cook for people, right? I
Yeah.
remember wanting to always cook, to bake for, for whoever, my friends or a boy, or, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was definitely like, a nurturing thing for sure. So I always wanted to, and I actually went to college as a bio undergrad because I did want to go to med school.
Mm.
That shifted because I
Yeah.
found nutrition, and I happened to fall in love with nutrition, and it was my professor who I loved. It was the hardest. It was like the level 4 nutrition class, and it was the first nutrition class I took, and I love it. And I'm saying to myself, why am I in this like high level nutrition class? But I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it because it was a new diet. It was a diet therapy class, and I was like, "Oh my
Sure.
god, this is amazing!" And
Yeah.
that was really my shift right there. So honestly, in college, it was really always in me to want to
Sure.
help people with their health in some form, and it just transferred into nutrition. And that one, I really want that one class was really the
Yeah.
pivot. Of course, there was always fear about going to medical school, but the nutrition I was all in, and that's when I was in
Yeah.
unapologetically, both for helping people and for myself.
Yeah.
For me, initially it was for weight loss, and then autoimmune conditions, and then I was bedbound for 4 months for
Yeah.
something that no one knows to this day, but I leaned into my body. And I was like, I was never
Mm.
scared. It's so interesting because
That
some
is
people, if
interesting.
they were like, I couldn't get out of bed for 4 months. No one knew what was going on. I went to doctors and doctors. I wasn't scared. Did I
Mm.
cry? Yes. but but I wasn't never scared, and I never thought to myself that I'm not going to be able to get out of this bed again. I just knew it would happen
Mm.
eventually. So
Sure.
it was just that belief that I knew my body was going to do it. And I think I had that belief came also all these little pieces in my life that I'm putting together when I had my own children.
Mm.
One labor was hard, and the other
Mm-hmm.
labor was quick, and just
Mm.
learning to trust my body. So that just made me even more like, if I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
I can support other women to go through this as well, because our bodies can do anything. So it's
Yeah.
always been in me. And it's honestly, each period in my life, it's been reinforced and reinforced,
Mm.
whether it's through what I have experienced or what I've supported other women
Sure.
to help them. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really been throughout, just
Yeah.
reinforced in different ways, right? In
Sure.
different experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for that. Talk to me about the importance, and you've really done this. Some people have to get to this. You've always kind of understood, really, especially since that college course, but how your why and your values factor into what you do in your life. When's the first time you remember aligning those things? When's the first memory of like, oh, these things all come together for me?
I'm gonna probably say, honestly, even thinking about my values and my why was in 2020. I can just pinpoint it to then,
Mm.
because that's when I started to really be like, oh, I can actually really help more people one on one or whatever,
Mm.
because we were all, like doing, it was all Zoom and everything. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Prior to that, I had always, I was very into chiropractic and massage and all that. And those are all tangible, right? So
Right.
nutrition and what I do is not tangible. And I had always been
Yeah.
like, I wish I had something tangible that I could give to people. And then that flipped, because then we were all doing Zoom, and I was like, oh my God, what I do, like I can do this through Zoom, and it didn't need to be
Yeah.
tangible in a touch way. And so
Sure.
that was, you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
tangible in a different way. And so that was like my big aha for me, which is kind of cool. But that's when I started to kind of reflect, okay, so what's my why?
Yeah.
And like kind of soul search, like, birthing, like working more with people via Zoom. How can I do this? And that's really when my passion, like, okay, like passion, it was like you'll go back to when I first started posting on Instagram, I would do hashtag passionate and, whatever, my family would laugh or whatever. But that's really was my why, because that's what I came to. I was like, this is really my driving force, because I am truly passionate about people's health and my health. And so that was really, back 2020, that's really when I just started reflecting and like, what's my driving force? And really passion was what came to the top.
Yeah.
And you can look back and see.
I love that. I love how you understood that. You were able to look back. You knew your character traits, you knew your values, because your values and your character traits are very aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to pull that all together and like, okay, what lights me up? How can I, in this time? And the light bulb really went off. I love how you were able to put all those pieces together. But I want to point out, ladies, they're listening, that this is why I ask these questions. This is why I pose the question, what are your character traits? What are your why and your values? What do you care about? Because they're all connected, and you need to know one to understand how the other fits into it, so you can make these decisions to live your life in a way that's most authentic to you, in a way that lights you up every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Such a good example. All right. Talk to me. And this was very much a shift as you were growing up, learning to live out of your own expectations versus others' expectations. Talk to me about your journey with that.
So I'm going to say maybe, I don't know if it's actually, I always wanted to get married and have children.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is I don't even know if it's an expectation, to be honest, anymore. But in my family, that's just kind of what you did, right? We went to college, then we got married, and we had kids, and that was that was always really, truly a priority for me. Mm-hmm. However, now is the transition is my expectations has shifted in terms of that I want to create the business that I love, helping women while still being a mom, but that definitely has changed, because now I'm creating my own expectations, and that's a transition because, I am a mom and I've always been very present with my children. And hopefully they'll say that as well if you interview them. But that's always been my main thing, is like, I always wanted to be a present mom, and I did not work full time. And because I specifically, I wanted to be available for my children, because my husband was working all the time, but I wanted to be around for my children. And that was my priority. That was my nurturing piece. But now there's my own expectations is that I want to create this extraordinary life, having a great, in service to others, of course, and as well as serving my family as well. So it's my expectation now that I want both, not just one. I want them both right now. So it is, it's a dance, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm doing my best. And there are days when I have to take off the supporting of, my business into supporting my children, because they need me right now, and they still need me. They don't need me as in like the daily, because they are older. But it's a transition for all of us. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Because, you and I talked about this before we started recording.
But that's my expectations for myself, and so and that's me. When I talked about character trait, is being of integrity for myself. It's like my word to myself. And I'm looking at very differently this year. Like, people of integrity, you know what that means. But if I'm saying that I'm going to do something on Friday, I need to be of integrity for myself and keep my word to myself. And I need to do it on Friday. And to me, I have prioritized that. I'm of integrity to others, but I need to do that for myself as well. And so that is also the changing of the expectation. Do I do things? Yeah. But now I'm really like, I need to be just as of integrity to myself and keep my word. If I'm going to do this on Friday, I need to set that expectation. And of course, give myself grace if whatever things
come up. Sure.
You know what I mean? But that's my goal and what I'm setting out to do and my intention. And it's important for me that I meet that expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you communicate that with yourself. Because I think that's the other thing that comes up with expectations is it's one thing to set them, but then you got to communicate them with yourself, with others. And
Yes.
then that's kind of a form of keeping you accountable and keeping you in alignment when you do that too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you expect that. And so even it's even
Yeah.
like this pattern breaking, like, you know what I mean? Like it's okay,
Hmm.
you're gonna achieve this. Boom, you hit that because you're keeping your word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're of integrity to yourself. And so if there were patterns that, you let things slide for whatever reason, you procrastinated, whatever, because there was fear or whatever. But now
Hmm.
you're shifting that as well. So it's another way to shift for me.
Yeah.
That is important for me, for my
Yeah.
expectations, for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. I love that. So good. All right. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. We've mentioned layers already. Our lives are full of them. We go through many transitions in different seasons. We go through seasons that we don't love so much and others that we do, and everywhere in between. But in all of this, what I've learned is you got to learn to have some peace and contentment. You don't have to love or want to go back and do it that way again, but you got to be able to meet yourself where you are and look at it. I have learned to look at it, tried to. This is something I'm still working on, through more of a neutral lens. Like, oh
Hmm.
gosh, I see how that was how I was feeling at that point based on these narratives. Getting curious rather than judgmental on
Yes.
myself. And that's
Yes.
something that I've really, really focused on. So talk to me about your learning to, embrace these layers and accept those layered aspects of yourself and your journey with that.
Yeah, no, it's really kind of cool because, and again, this is more of a recent journey part, right? Because I just
Mm-hmm.
think, I don't know, everyone is in a different process in their level, in their personal growth journey, etc. But I can reflect now, or I've trained myself to reflect now, like if an instant or situation, and I'm going to call it activate, not trigger, right? Because now also reframing. So we all have
I
these
like
triggers,
that.
but I'm changing it. Forgive me, I'm not sure where I saw it, but I was like, oh my goodness, that's brilliant. And so things
Yeah.
that would activate me, I'm like, okay. So I can
Yeah.
reflect, like, why is that activating me? Like, what
Yeah.
what what in that situation is causing a rise? Like, what is that? And I think I'm like, what is that reflecting in me that that is something that I'm comfortable with, or whatever it is. So I do a lot of like, huh. Look at me. Like I'm activated. That activated me. And then I do really take that neutral aspect, and try to look at things from a much more broader bird's eye view, versus that, like that one point of view, but really going more broader and looking at it. Okay, how can I let it go? If it's activating me, why is it activating me? What is it? Am I seeing? Am I jealous? Is something that I want? Like let's just say, like, I'm just going to give an example. If there's someone who is in my field and it seems like they're rocking it, and I'm like, why don't I have 10,000 followers? So why is that activating me? Instead,
Mm.
so I flip that around now, but it's a practice. I'm like, oh my gosh, look what's possible. So now I'm looking at it not
Yeah.
as a trigger,
Oh,
but like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, if that person can, there's no reason I can't. And not that that's my
Yeah.
goal, but I'm just an example because I know a
Sure.
lot of people use that as a measure for sure. And of course, I
Yeah.
definitely was like, I don't have that many people. It's not my benchmark anymore. But for sure, it's like just an example, like, oh, but that is so possible. Like,
Yeah.
so I look at it as possibilities versus like, oh, like, why if she's doing that, I'm better than, like
Yeah.
I reflect and look at it in a different way now, which is really so beautiful.
Yeah. It
And I don't mean
is.
that. It actually it leads to less angst and less stress. And what can I learn from this? And it's just more of the self-realization, and just continues. Like, you learn more and more about yourself.
Yeah.
I have found anyway. And I'm able to, if something used to activate me, like, why did they used to activate me? And then I'd be like, you know what? If it's a situation, I'm just going to, again, doing more and more of this, just
Mm-hmm.
look at it from a place of love and compassion for that person,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's something that that's not in line with me, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be in my alignment. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
because they're not me.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's a great way. That's a great point too. And you get rid of the whole comparison thing. You get rid of that because that doesn't help anybody. It's not good for anybody.
No.
It's not supportive. It's not encouraging. It's not, and it's, so I love that. That's such a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that so much.
And it's a practice, like,
yeah,
I mean, like,
exactly.
I don't say it lightly because I understand,
Sure.
so I just want to share that it's not that easy, but the more you practice and the more you begin to reflect, it's, again, I find it kind of cool.
It is. It is kind of cool. And I love that the practicing, I think, is important because we can spend years in one mindset with one set of narratives that we live by. And we get to an epiphany moment and realize, gosh, that's not really serving me, or this is not a mindset I want to stay in.
Yes.
Just because you acknowledge that doesn't mean it won't come up again. It takes practice. You've got to shift. You've got to convince your nervous system, your brain, your mind that that's where you want to be now. And it will take a series of time, things of practices in place over time. It doesn't automatically mean it goes away. So I think it's really important to remember that too. It's like you spent 30 years in this space.
Yes.
It's not going to take you just one spin around and it's going to be over. So not getting discouraged either, and keeping that practice going. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Still working on the road rage.
I know.
That one.
I know. I know. Well, it's funny you brought that up because I like my husband is the most patient person in so many avenues, but the one place his impatient shows up is in driving. And I literally I think you should get into that.
Yeah.
Need to talk about that.
Exactly,
so let's pick that apart a little more. Anyway, I know we're all in process, man. Okay.
Yep.
Talk to me about how finding empowerment and embracing layers has not only impacted your relationship with yourself, but your relationship with other people as well.
Oh, I mean, it's completely changed it from my perception completely, because you don't look at things. Okay, I'm just coming from a professional perspective. You're not looking at things from a physical. It's not just that physical piece anymore. You understand that there's so much more beneath that physical piece. And I just think for me, professionally, has made me such a much more empathetic, or I don't even know, more understanding practitioner with my clients, because I understand that it's not just physical, and if you're only hitting it hard from the physical, you're missing it. So so for me, that layer has helped me to be a better practitioner. It's helped me to be a better mother. I think I could see things in so many different ways.
Sure.
So like if you're looking at a situation with your child and you like you have this, I don't even know what example I want to do. Let's say someone's in a bad mood or whatever. But I can look back and be like, all right, well, maybe something happened to her today.
Yeah.
And let me just take a step back and give her some space, because maybe there's something happened today or something like that.
Yeah.
And even like with my relationship with my husband, I can really like take a step back, like just to be a more compassionate person and just to look at what he has gone through, what he needed to do in order for our whole marriage, for supporting our family and my daughters. And so I can be just from a different lens, so I can understand and definitely be more compassionate with people. And my husband he's like, you always find the other side with everybody. Because, he's like, you're always sticking, he goes, you're always sticking up for everybody. And it's not that I'm sticking up. I can just take a step back and I can just perceive that there's other things that we may not see.
Yeah.
That need to be, that I'm aware of. So it's really affected everything for me.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I just see it in a different way.
Exactly. I mean, it allows you to depersonalize things because we
Yes.
tend to, like, somebody responds or shows up in a room a certain way and we automatically personalize it rather than
Yes.
stopping for a moment. Because 9 times out of 10, that has nothing to do with you. Like,
Yes.
maybe something you said triggered something bigger that's going on, but 9 times out of 10, it is not a reflection on you.
Yes,
And so,
exactly.
and it saves a lot of getting defensive or getting
Yes.
insecure or
Yeah.
spending your mind and time twirling on things that
Mhm.
really don't have anything
Yes.
to do with you.
Exactly, because I know it's something that they need to work through, and if I,
Yeah.
and it's like, like it's not something, it's not that it's not my issue, but it's something that they need to work through, and I can be understanding of that.
Sure.
And
Exactly.
I don't, you know what I mean? And I don't need to be
Yeah.
reactionary because I can take a step
Yeah.
back and I can be like, okay, so how can I respond in a way that can support you better? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Versus being reactionary and thinking it's a threat to me versus it has nothing, like you said, has nothing to do with me. So let me respond in a way that that can support everybody. Me,
Absolutely.
them, you know what I mean? And make the situation turn out so much better than if we were reacting in a way
Yeah.
that's crappy to everybody. Excuse my
Yeah.
language.
Yeah. Nobody wins. I mean, honestly,
No.
though, nobody wins in that. Thank you so much.
And I don't
That's
do
such
that
a
all. I
great
mean,
example.
listen, that's a practice too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, like,
Absolutely.
I
All
don't
of
want to say I'm
this.
perfect at all.
No.
At all. At all.
No. And we all have our moments, but I think it's also that ability to go back and be like, hey, I didn't show up in that way, the way I wanted to, and
Yes.
giving ourselves grace. And but you have to be aware and live in an awareness to even know that's necessary too.
Correct.
So,
Yes. Yes.
So it's all part of that. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, that's so good. Okay. We're down to our rapid fire. I know some of the answers to these questions already, but name 5 activities that nourish you.
5 activities that nourish me. Okay. So I'm going to start from the morning to my night. So from the morning, I wake up and I do some type of breathing or just journaling, something for me that makes me feel good. If I'm feeling crunchy in the morning or, like resistance or like something bothered me, I try to reflect. So that's something that I do pretty much every morning. I specifically get up early. So that's for me. The next thing I do is I walk. I'll walk, but I get out in nature. So I get out in nature every single day. I have a dog. We know that. And thank God for him, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be out in nature, not even a minuscule. So I'm always out. So I'm always out in nature. I am active. So I do go to the gym because I love it. It makes me feel good. Not because I'm punishing myself or because I ate too much, but I go to the gym because I love it.
I love that differentiation. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yeah. And I have fun. I have my girlfriends. We all have fun. It's fun music. We dance. We have a good time.
Yeah.
So something else that is important to me that I do, it's not on a daily thing, but I set aside, my husband and I, we do set aside some time, whether it's every night or once a week, to have like a movie night together. So it's our time together, which is important and valuable, because I'll admit, like when I was first starting my online business, it was like, go, go, go. And he gave me the space, but I don't want my relationship to fall through the cracks either. So that's something that I have to make time for.
Yeah.
And having a good meal with my husband. That's another thing. Like we do enjoy eating and we cook together. And so, cooking together, it doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to. But that's another, I'm going to say that's another thing that we enjoy when we have a good meal together. We have a nice, good meal. So nourishing ourselves with food and like that. Those are like, I just rapid fire. Those are things that came off the top of my head. Those
are great. I love all of those. Thank you so much. No, those are great. And I think I love that. Because my husband and I will cook together from time to time too. And, it invites other conversation. Like it's just a way to be together that, I always value that time. Like, because I don't love to cook, but I don't mind cooking with him.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so just another way to gather in a different way. Yeah, absolutely.
We're food snobs, so we like we're like, oh, this is good. We're like, how can we cook good, and I don't mean that in a snotty way, but we cook good. So when we go out to eat, it's hard to find we don't go out to eat often because it's hard to find a place.
Make such good food.
You know, like, I mean, I can't help it. It's the truth. That's how we are. But it's funny. It's, you know.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love that. All right. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
I want to feel energetic. I want to feel focused. I want to feel calm. I want to feel peaceful and happy. But I do feel that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel that way anyway. So yes, it's how I want to feel in 6 months, but it's how I feel now. Anyway, yeah, it's a continuation, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that so much. All right, Laura, tell people where they can find you, how they can follow you, work with you, all those things. Don't worry, audience. This will be on our website, on our resources page, embracinglayers.com. So if you're driving down the freeway, you don't need to screech and stop and pull over. It'll be there, but I want to give you a chance to share that now as well.
Yeah, so just LauraTolosiNutrition.com. You can easily just go there. You can follow me on Instagram, Laura Tolosi Nutrition. That's easy to follow me on Instagram. And if you go to my website, you'll see an option that you can get my chocolate recipe ebook. So you can sign up for that. Those are free. Those are teenage tested chocolate recipes. Like, so nice. It's quality. Yeah. But it's good. So I had to have the teenagers try them before.
If they like it, you're in. Man.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's easy. LauraTolosiNutrition.com. Simple.
Okay. Great. All right, my friend. Well, it was so good having you on here today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate how you show up in the world and how you support others. It's so authentic, and I'm so grateful to get to share you on this platform. Take good care of yourselves this week, ladies. Get curious about what's behind what you do, how you move, how you eat. Start asking yourself these questions. Sit with yourself. You're worth the investment in time. And I think you'll be really surprised, but sometimes by the answers when you take the time to be really intentional about that and all the other things that are connected to that. So take that time for yourself this week. It's a great time to do that, a great time to reflect. Going into a new spring season, it's a great time to do that. So thank you so much. Have a great week. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. It was great fun, always.
Always. All right. Take good care, audience, and we'll talk to you next week.
Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Feel podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support, and engage with this framework in written form with your journal or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places you can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you in having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.